Hi, it's Jane Mason here from Virtuous Bread, and welcome to the series of videos that accompany my book, Mexico, the World Vegetarian, which is a super fantastic book about authentic Mexican food, all vegetarian. And it's available on Amazon. Excuse me. In this video, what we're going to do is we are going to learn, again, one of the basics of Mexican cooking, which is how to deal with dried chilies. So dried chilies are a big feature of Mexican cooking, and they do need to be treated in a particular way in order to get the best out of them for you and for the dish. And one of the things that you need is boiling water. So I have my kettle boiling here and I'm gonna turn it off. And a couple of the features of chilies that you may want to know about before you start. Firstly, chilies don't need to be hot, although many of them are. And I've got two pretty hot chilies here. One is called a cascabel, that's this one, and it sounds like a rattle because all the seeds are inside and they rattle around. And this one is called an árbol. It's a little red chili. We also eat this one fresh. This one is never eaten fresh. So some chilies are not ever eaten fresh, they're only eaten dried, and some chilies are eaten both fresh and dried. But the heat in a chili is in the seeds and the kind of veins, the membranes on the inside of the chili and around the stalk. So you think about the heat being in the collar, the veins, and the seeds. So in order to sort of make your chilies less hot, less spicy, you want to get rid of those things before you deal with the chilies. And for that, a pair of scissors is a very great tool. Now, the other thing to know about chilies is that frequently the skins, especially of the chilies that are only ever eaten when they're dried, the skins are very thick and they're really hard to digest. So a lot of people get a tummy ache when they eat even things like green peppers or red peppers. And so what we do here in Mexico is most of the time, not all the time by any stretch of the imagination, but most of the time we take the skins away from the chilies, even if they're dried. And how we do that is we soak them in the boiling water, and then we put them in the blender, and then we put them through a sieve. And obviously what stays in the sieve is the skin, and you throw that away. So you want to be sieving over a bowl, because what goes into the bowl is what you keep and use. So first thing that you do when you're dealing with a dried chili is, let me move you here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, there's my bowl. Is you take off the stalk. Okay, this is going to be my rubbish bowl here. And you get rid of all the seeds. So in a cascabel, that's pretty easy. They all come tumbling out. And see here in my bowl, there you have the seeds and the stalk and really the membrane. If you think about a green pepper or red pepper, the seeds are all sitting in a little container, in a little area in the chili. So that's come out too. Okay, so the chili itself, I'm gonna pop it in the bowl. So do that again, okay? Just take out the seeds and the stalk. Now for something like an árbol, this is where your scissors come in handy because you want to cut off the top, cut it open, and see there's zillions of seeds inside, and you can get rid of the seeds that way. The older the chilies are, the more fragile they'll be. You know, the great thing about dried chilies is that they travel and they're light and they're pretty well non-perishable, right? They kind of last forever, but obviously they do get drier and drier and drier. So if you'll know, if your chilies are super, super fragile and just kind of falling apart, that they're pretty old, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to affect the flavor a lot, okay? And I'll just do one more árbol. There are lots of different kinds of dried chili, and they could kind of start to catch you in the back of the throat. It's really interesting. That's what they do to me. Lots of different kinds of dried chilies, and they all taste super, super different. So getting to know them is part of the fun of doing quite a lot of Mexican cooking, because you can begin to understand which ones you like, which ones you don't like, and how they differ enormously in flavor, and also in the level of heat that they have and that they add to the dish. So there's my garbage, that's just gonna go, and here are my chilies in the bowl, and all I'm gonna do now is cover them with boiling water. Okay. And the cascabeles tend to stand up a lot, so you might want to just cut them into a couple of pieces with your scissors. You don't need that much water, so that they are underneath the water. Okay, so there are my chilies in the boiling water. Now I'm just going to let them sit there, and I would, ordinarily be then following the recipe, whatever it is that I'm making, a mole or a salsa or whatever it is that I'm making from the book. So remember a couple things. The recipe will almost always ask you to soak the dried chilies and then transfer them with some tongs to a blender. And you always want to keep the chili soaking water, okay, for a couple reasons. One is there are times when you're going to need some of it just to make the blender go around. So blenders don't work well with dry, right, with a lot of dry ingredients. They need some liquid to make them go around. So a lot of the times the recipes will say, and put in just enough of the chili water to make the blender go around. That's thing number one. And thing number two is there are times when you're going to make a sauce or a mole or something like that, and it will be too thick. And you'll be asked to thin it to, let's say, the consistency of custard or the consistency of gravy. And sometimes you use a vegetable stock to do that, but sometimes you use the chili soaking water. So this chili soaking water, once you've put your chilies into the blender, make sure you keep it because you may need it for later on in the recipe. And once you've blended the chilies, and I'm not going to do that now, but once you've blended them in your blender, take your sieve. Again, take the contents of the blender, pour it into the sieve above a bowl. Okay, remember what you're keeping is what goes into the bowl. And what's in the sieve, it's going to be maybe the odd seed and definitely the skins of the chilies. That's what you'll throw away. Okay, so once you've sieved everything, and what's really handy for sieving through for sieving like this is a ladle, right? So you can put the contents of the blender into the sieve and you can do this, right? Keep what's in the bowl, throw away what's in the sieve. So that is a quick whistle stop through how to deal with dried chilies. And I hope you enjoy the book. Bye for now.